While 72% of business leaders claim they have strong team cultures, recent 2025 data from Gallup shows that only 15% of teams actually perform like high-functioning units. That's an 85% gap between perception and reality, and it's costing companies billions in lost productivity, innovation, and talent. If you've ever felt like your team isn't reaching its potential despite your best efforts, you're not alone. But by the end of this video, you'll have the exact 3-strategy framework that companies like Google, Netflix, and Patagonia use to build cultures that consistently outperform their competition. Before we dive into the solutions, let's talk about why this matters right now in 2025. According to McLean Company's latest research, poor team culture costs U.S. organizations $2 billion per day. That's not a typo, per day, through lost productivity, employee disengagement, and turnover. Here's what's actually happening in most organizations. Teams have the right people, the right tools, and even the right strategy on paper. But something's missing. Communication breaks down. Trust erodes. People show up physically, but check out mentally. The Society for Human Resource Management found that workplace incivility, just basic lack of respect and consideration, causes employees to lose an average of 31 minutes recovering from each incident. Multiply that across your team, across weeks and months, and you're looking at massive productivity losses. But here's where it gets really interesting. The same research shows that companies with strong, intentional cultures see 8.5 times more revenue per employee. That's not 8.5% more. That's 8.5 times. The companies that get this right aren't just doing slightly better. They're operating in a completely different league. So what separates these high-performing teams from everyone else? That's exactly what Fortune 500 companies have spent millions figuring out, and I'm going to break down their 3 core strategies right now. Before we dive into these Fortune 500 strategies, if you're getting value from these leadership insights that actually work in the real world, hit that subscribe button. We break down executive strategies like this every week, and you don't want to miss what's coming. Strategy number 1, building psychological safety through structured frameworks. Now, you've probably heard the term psychological safety thrown around, but let me show you how companies actually implement this, not just talk about it. Google spent 2 years studying their teams in what they called Project Aristotle. They analyzed 180 teams and found that psychological safety, the belief that you won't be punished for making mistakes or speaking up, was the #1 predictor of team success. Not talent, not resources, not strategy. Safety. But here's what most leaders miss. Psychological safety isn't about being nice or avoiding conflict. It's about creating specific structures where people can take risks without fear of embarrassment or punishment. Netflix does this through their famous Disagree and Commit framework. Here's how it actually works. When teams are making decisions, every person is expected to voice their honest opinion, even if it contradicts leadership. Once a decision is made, everyone commits fully to executing it, regardless of whether it was their preferred choice. This framework does 3 things simultaneously. First, it gives everyone permission to speak up. That's the safety part. Second, it creates better decisions because you're getting diverse perspectives. Third, it builds trust because people see that dissenting opinions don't end careers. They improve outcomes. The specific implementation looks like this. In every major meeting, the leader explicitly asks, who disagrees with this approach and why? Not, does anyone have concerns? That's too passive. You're creating an expectation of productive dissent. Spotify takes this further with their blameless postmortems. When something goes wrong, and in tech, things go wrong constantly, teams conduct detailed analyses focused entirely on systems and processes, never on individuals. The question isn't, who messed up? It's what in our system allowed this to happen. This completely changes team dynamics. When people know that mistakes lead to learning rather than punishment, they innovate faster, share problems earlier, and collaborate more openly. Your action step here. In your next team meeting, try the pre-mortem exercise. Before starting a project, ask your team, imagine this fails completely. What would have caused that failure? This gives people permission to voice concerns early when you can still adjust course. The results are measurable. Google's high psychological safety teams were 17% more likely to be rated as high-performing by their executives and showed 27% higher productivity metrics. Strategy number 2, radical transparency, but with intelligent boundaries. This is where a lot of companies get it wrong. They either operate in complete secrecy, which breeds distrust, or they overshare everything, which creates chaos. The companies that get this right understand that transparency isn't about sharing everything. It's about sharing the right things in the right ways. Buffer, the social media management company, takes transparency to an extreme that actually works. They publish every employee's salary publicly on their website, not just internally, publicly. They also share their equity formula, their revenue numbers, and even their board meeting notes. Now, before you think that's crazy, here's what happened. Their job applications increased by 43% because top talent wanted to work somewhere that trusted them with real information. Employee retention improved by 31% because there was no mystery about compensation. Everyone knew exactly how salaries were determined. But here's the crucial part. Buffer still has boundaries. They don't share individual performance reviews. They don't disclose specific customer data. They don't publicize strategic pivots before they're ready to execute. Netflix has a different approach through their context not control philosophy. Managers share extensive context about business challenges, strategic priorities, and market conditions, but then give teams autonomy to figure out solutions. Reed Hastings, Netflix's co-founder, says they operate on the principle that adequate performance gets a generous severance. That sounds harsh, but combined with their transparency about expectations and business needs, it creates clarity. People know exactly where they stand and what success looks like. Quick question: which of these strategies resonates most with your current team challenges? Is it psychological safety or transparency? Drop it in the comments below, and if this framework is helping you think differently about culture, hit that like button. Here's how to implement this. Start with your next team meeting by sharing 3 things you normally wouldn't. Maybe it's a challenge the company is facing, a strategic decision that's being debated, or honest feedback about team performance. Then, crucially, explain why you're sharing and what you need from the team. Patagonia does this brilliantly. They share environmental impact data, supply chain challenges, and even customer complaints with their teams. But they frame it as, here's the reality we're working with. Here's where we need your innovation. The specific framework is called Transparent Problem, Collaborative Solution. You provide full context about a challenge, explain the constraints, and then create space for the team to develop solutions. Companies using structured transparency report 33% higher employee engagement and 41% lower turnover rates, according to 2025 research from Harvard Business Review. Your implementation tool. Create a monthly State of the Team document that shares key metrics, upcoming challenges, and strategic priorities. Make it visual, make it honest, and make it a conversation starter, not a one-way announcement. Strategy number 3, and this is where most companies completely miss the mark: purpose-driven hiring that prioritizes cultural fit over credentials. Patagonia has a hiring philosophy they call dirtbag over MBA. They literally prefer to hire passionate rock climbers, surfers, and environmental activists over traditionally credentialed business professionals. And here's why it works. Their employee retention rate is 92%, in retail, where the industry average is 60%. But let's be clear about what they're actually doing. They're not just hiring people who like hiking. They're hiring people whose personal values align so deeply with the company's environmental mission that work becomes an extension of their identity. When Patagonia's founder Yvon Chouinard transferred ownership of the company to environmental trusts in 2022, giving away $3 billion, employee productivity actually increased. Why? Because the team saw proof that the company's stated values were real. Netflix takes a different but equally powerful approach with their Dream Team, Not Family philosophy. They hire adults who are excellent at what they do and don't need hand-holding. Their famous culture document states, "We're like a pro sports team, not a kids' recreational team." This means they hire slowly and deliberately, looking for people who combine exceptional skill with the ability to handle candid feedback and make good decisions independently. Before I show you exactly how to implement this in your hiring process, here's something important. Business leaders are joining this community every week for strategies that actually work in real companies. If you want to think and act like Fortune 500 executives, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss these insider insights. The implementation framework is called Values First Screening, and here's exactly how it works. Step 1. Before you ever post a job description, define your top 3 non-negotiable cultural values. Not generic ones like teamwork or innovation. Specific ones like Patagonia's environmental activism or Netflix's radical candor. Step 2. Create interview questions that reveal values alignment, not just skills. Instead of, "Tell me about a time you led a team," ask, "Tell me about a time your personal values conflicted with a business decision. What did you do?" Zappos famously offers new hires $2,000 to quit after their first week of training. About 2-3% take the offer, and Zappos considers that a massive success because those people weren't culturally aligned anyway. It's cheaper to pay them to leave than to have them slowly erode your culture. Step 3. Involve your team in the hiring process. Not just for a courtesy interview, but with real decision-making power. If 3 team members flag cultural concerns, that candidate doesn't proceed, regardless of credentials. The data on this is compelling. Companies that prioritize cultural fit in hiring see 30% higher productivity and 50% longer employee tenure, according to research from MIT Sloan Management Review, published in early 2025. Your immediate action item: audit your last 3 hires. Did you screen for cultural values as rigorously as you screened for technical skills? If not, update your hiring process starting with your next role. Here's your step-by-step action plan to start building this winning culture immediately. Week 1. Choose one strategy to pilot. If you need quick wins, start with psychological safety through the pre-mortem exercise I mentioned. It requires no budget, no policy changes, just a different approach to your next meeting. Week 2. Measure your baseline. Survey your team anonymously about current culture using just 3 questions. Do you feel safe sharing honest opinions? Do you understand our strategic priorities? And do our team values align with yours? Simple yes, no, or 1 to 10 scale. Week 3. Implement transparency in one area. Share something you normally wouldn't. A business challenge, a strategic decision in progress, or honest feedback about team performance. Frame it with the transparent problem collaborative solution approach. Week 4. Revise your hiring process for the next role. Add values-based questions. Involve team members in interviews, and create a clear scorecard that weights cultural fit equally with technical skills. Month 2 and beyond, scale what works. If psychological safety exercises improve team dynamics, make them standard practice. If transparency creates better collaboration, expand the types of information you share. The obstacles you'll face. Some team members will resist transparency, thinking you're creating more work. Some will abuse psychological safety to avoid accountability. That's normal. The key is maintaining the boundaries. Safety doesn't mean avoiding tough conversations. It means having them productively. Resources you need. Create a simple 1-page culture document that outlines your 3 core values and specific behaviors that demonstrate them. Patagonia's is public. Use it as a template. Netflix's culture deck has been downloaded millions of times. Study it. Expected timeline. You'll see behavioral changes in 2 to 3 weeks, measurable engagement improvements in 2 to 3 months, and significant business impact in 6 to 12 months. Culture change isn't instant, but it's exponential once momentum builds. Before you implement these Fortune 500 strategies in your team, help other leaders discover these insights. The 3 frameworks we just covered, psychological safety, radical transparency, and purpose-driven hiring, are exactly what separate high-performing teams from everyone else. Hit like if these team culture strategies were valuable, subscribe for more Fortune 500 insights that actually work, and share this with any leader or manager who's trying to build a stronger team. Which strategy will you implement first? Psychological safety, transparency, or values-based hiring? Drop it in the comments below and join leaders who are transforming their teams with these weekly insights.
This is the C-Suite Playbook, where Fortune 500 strategies meet actionable insights. Your competitive advantage starts here.